All right, on that front page of your notes, I want you to draw a right triangle. What classifies a right triangle to be a right triangle? Has a right angle. Good. So draw a triangle with a right angle in it. Okay. We need to talk about pieces of this triangle. Okay? A right triangle, we already talked about, has a right angle. That's where it gets its name from. Does anybody know anything else we can label? The two corners, what kind of angles are these? They are acute angles, okay. What about the sides? There's something specific we can label them. What do we think? What is the side across from the right angle called? The longest side is called the hypotenuse. Everyone label that? If you're confused on which one the longest side is, or if it's hard to tell, the hypotenuse is the one that is always across from the right angle. Does anyone know what we call the other two sides? Legs. Yep. So these other two sides are called the legs of the triangle. Okay, so key parts of a right triangle are the right angle, the hypotenuse, and the two legs. Okay. We are not focusing on this right now, but we talked about this last week in one of the examples on your homework, the Pythagorean theorem. Does anyone know what that is? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. That is a formula you can use to find the missing sides. Okay. A and B, what are those? Out of the hypotenuse and the leg. A and B are the legs. And C is the hypotenuse. Okay, so you can use that formula to help you find a missing side. Okay? So, again, the three things that are the most important for this last triangle congruence theorem is a right triangle has a right angle, a hypotenuse, and legs. Okay? So, go ahead and flip your notes to example 1. I want you to draw two right triangles on example 1. Draw two right triangles. Again, what classifies a right triangle to be a right triangle? Has a right angle. Good. Okay. I'm ignoring the directions for right now. Introducing the hypotenuse leg theorem. Okay. We've talked about side, angle, and angle, side so far. Today we're talking about hypotenuse leg. What is the difference? I'll write them on here. What is the difference between these four compared to hypotenuse leg? What's the major difference? Okay, it's talking about an angle, and this has three things, right? What does this have? Two. But really, what else do we need to know in order to use hypotenuse leg? Right triangle. Okay, write this note down. You can only use hypotenuse leg if it is a right triangle. That is the only way you can use hypotenuse leg theorem. Okay, so what this means is in order for two right triangles to be congruent, they have to have a congruent hypotenuse, and they have to have a congruent leg, and obviously the right angle. Okay, do they have the right angle? Does your picture show both of them have a right angle? Yes. Okay. Which one's the hypotenuse? What'd you say? The longest side across the right angle. So, to use hypotenuse leg, those two need to be congruent to each other. Okay. So, we have the angle, we have the hypotenuse, we need a leg. Okay? If I pick this leg, what leg on the other triangle is congruent to that one? The same one, right? Why can I not say that? Because they're not the same, right? So, that leg, the part of hypotenuse leg, the L, it has to be the same leg. It can't just be two different legs. Okay? They have to have the same hypotenuse length and one of the same leg lengths. That makes sense? So, if they have a hypotenuse that's the same and a leg that's the same, and it's a right triangle, that means it satisfies hypotenuse leg. Okay? Okay, so it wants us to add additional information for hypotenuse leg. Before we can even use hypotenuse leg, what do you have to make sure? It's a right triangle. Are we good there? Yes, they are both right triangles, so we can check hypotenuse leg. Do they have a congruent hypotenuse right now? What's the hypotenuse on this triangle right here? 9. So what would we have to say for this one? That one would have to be 9. Okay, so now they have congruent hypotenuse. Okay, so hypotenuse is good. What about the leg? What's representing a leg right now? PQ is a leg. What leg did they give us though? Q and R. Q and R is 5. So we need a congruent side that matches 5 on the other triangle. Which one should that be? MN should be 5. Now, does it satisfy hypotenuse leg? Yep. I want you to write a congruent statement for those two triangles. So what triangle is congruent to what triangle? All right, someone share what you put. LMN PQR. I agree. Did anybody else put anything different?
Flip that.
Flip this? Okay. Anybody else put anything different? Yeah, go for it. What'd you say? Sorry. MNLQRP. Good. Again, do both of these work? Yes, as long as the second one matches the first one. Doesn't matter how you write them. Okay. All right, go ahead and flip your notes. Challenge question. How many triangles do you see? There is 8 triangles. There is 8. Nice job. Let's walk through how you can see those 8. I have 1 here, 2 here. The whole thing together is 3. Same argument on these bottom 3. Where's the other 2 come from? The ones on the side, the big ones on the side. Good. Okay. On example 3, it gives us that JL, what's this symbol mean? Perpendicular to KM, and they have that in there with that right angle there. And it says JK is congruent to LK, which is true. It wants us to prove that JKM, this triangle here, is congruent to LKM, which is this triangle here. Okay? So there are some things that we need to fill in about what we know. Okay? What is something that we can fill in this picture? The right angle. Do you agree that the right angle is all these 4 corners? Okay, so we'll fill that in. These 4 corners are all right angles. What else can we fill in? Remember shared sides. Is there a shared side of those 2 triangles? That middle part, right? So this middle is congruent. Okay. Okay. We cannot assume that. Okay. What do we have so far? Again, we have all of those at our disposal right now. So we know there's 2 sides that are the same. What do we need? Let's focus on these top 2 small triangles real quick. Is there something that those 2 share? What? The middle, okay, the baseline, but they also share that middle side. So this middle side right here is also congruent. Okay. Look at this as a big triangle. What do you notice about this triangle? It has a baseline. Okay, it has two congruent sides. What does that mean? Think back to last week. It's an isosceles triangle. Okay, so if it has two sides that are the same, what do I know about those two base angles? Those are the same. Is there one of those theorems I can use for these two triangles? Those top two triangles here. Angle, angle, side. Yep. So see that? It has an angle, angle, and a side. So we know that these two triangles here are congruent to each other. Do you agree these two triangles are a part of the two triangles we're talking about? Yes. Okay. Since those small triangles satisfy angle, angle, side, what else can we assume about the triangles? Everything else should be congruent. So, this JN is congruent to what? NL. Yep. Why did I put 4 lines on there? Because that's the fourth congruent side we've talked about. Okay? Now, can I prove those bottom two triangles to be congruent? By what? Side, angle, side. Okay? So, since these top two are congruent to each other, and these bottom two are congruent to each other, what do we know about the whole thing? These two triangles are congruent to each other. Yep. So what we did all throughout there was prove that those two triangles are congruent to each other. For the second one? Oh, sorry. It is side, angle, side. Thank you. Side, angle, side. I think I said side, angle, side, and then I looked at this. Okay? Good. Do you see how we used a bunch of different relationships there to compare the whole thing? Yes, ma'am.
Why can't the top one be side, angle, angle? Why does it have to be angle, angle, side?
You can, okay, do you agree that side, angle, angle is the same thing as angle, angle, side? Do you agree that's the same thing? Anybody? Yeah. Yes, we just label it as angle, angle, side. Because that's one of our theorems. But if you put side, angle, angle, I would accept that too. Okay? Good question. Any other questions on that one? Okay. Number 1, what minimum criteria or minimum information is needed to show that right triangles are congruent to each other? You need a right angle. What else? A hypotenuse and a leg. Okay. So you need a right angle and you need a hypotenuse and a leg. Okay. Number 2, she said that these two triangles are congruent by hypotenuse leg. Why is she wrong? It's not a right angle. No right angle. So if you don't have a right angle, can you use hypotenuse leg? No. No right angle, so she cannot use hypotenuse leg. Good. Number 3, what are the 3 conditions that two triangles must meet in order to use hypotenuse leg?
Right angle, hypotenuse, and then...
Right angle is the same answer as number 1. Right angle, hypotenuse, and a leg. Specifically, what do that hypotenuse and leg have to be? Congruent to each other. Yep. Number 4, the hypotenuse leg theorem is side, side, angle. I don't like how they use that. Is side, side, angle one of our theorems over there?
No.
It is not, because that means it's not one of the, it's not up there, so that means it is not one of our theorems that we can use. Don't use that on the test, okay? Especially don't write it backwards. Over these. Number 5, what additional information do we need or what is missing in order to use hypotenuse leg?
FKL and then has a right angle.
Right, KLM needs a right angle in there, okay? Number 2, remember, you can assume things if they are connected to each other. What can we assume on this one?
The line down the middle is congruent.
Yep, SU is congruent to itself if we happen to split those triangles apart. So now what information is missing to use hypotenuse leg? Right. Or what'd you say? There we go. We need to know that TU is congruent to UV in order to use hypotenuse leg. Number 7. What information do we need to use hypotenuse leg here? Do they have a hypotenuse?
Yes.
Do they have a right angle? I should have started with that
Yes.
first. They have a right angle. They have an hypotenuse. Do they have congruent legs?
We don't know.
We don't know, right? So this leg has 28, so what would this leg have to be?
28.
It would have to be 28. If you wanted to base it off of 12, this side would have to be 12 also. Okay? What can we assume on number 8? Remember, if they're connected.
15.
PR is
Okay,
PR can do itself.
there we go. PR is congruent to itself, but you said we need a hypotenuse, right? So you said this would have to be 15. Or you could think the other triangle needs a leg if you wanted to look at that part also. Okay? Good. Questions on hypotenuse leg? What do you need in the triangle in order to use hypotenuse leg? A right angle. Yep.